I got a question. This is a off topic, but I'm taking us back on
Everything's
topic.
off topic.
Yeah,
Hey,
I'm sorry.
are we like we were talking earlier about
Ever since
foreign?
Ian said putting his finger in the cow's
Which,
mouth.
by the way, I think you could put two
That's
fingers.
I
in.
pictured it. That's why I feel dirty. You said XXX, and we got the finger, and I just
It's like a
there's
baby
so many
with their
pictures.
with their nipple that they so
Wait, what was
a
that
baby
that?
with
Yeah.
the with the nipple thing that they
Okay,
suck
okay.
on.
That makes
Do you guys think that we're entering a period where you say a foreign nation needs to aid a country's revolution, and that's been basically historically what's happened? That Canada and Australia are going to require some sort of revolution, and that they're going to need American support?
Are you saying, do you think the United States will invade Canada?
No,
and
not an
Australia?
invasion at all. But like the French supported arms and money to the Americans before the revolution for 2 years.
Well, let's be real. I
Fine.
mean, Canada's got a lot of oil.
I don't know
And
if
guns.
Aussies would ever.
No, they got a lot of oil. America loves that oil.
There's such. What are you going to say?
See poppy
Australia's
fields
far
and we're
away.
good.
Canada's like the same country, pretty much. It's
Canada
terrifying.
needs to be liberated at this point. I feel bad for the Canadians.
I wonder.
Seriously.
I wonder what a poll would say if you ask Canadians if they'd be willing to join the United States. I'm not saying it to imply Canadians would. I'd be
You just are
interested to see
interested, yeah.
like what I imagine there'd be a small percentage, particularly among a lot of the more like border cities. They'd probably be like, yeah, sure, why not? But I'd imagine most people would be like, no, and most people probably like what's happening in their country. No joke. Like I know a lot of Canadians. Like the reason these things happen in these countries is because the people either tolerate it or enjoy it. In the United States, we're going through conflict because the red states and the blue states are so dramatically different from each other that Texas is like, we're not locking down, no mask mandates, and people are suing in the courts, and Florida's like, we're open, and New York is like full on fascist lockdown, no medical exemptions. Canada's just like straight lockdown. Australia's just like lock them up. So the people there tolerate or like it. In the United States, you have a mixed bag of conflict.
Well, it's because when they try to do something about it, they're arrested in droves. And when they do, and like, this is the thing, right? And Aussies get so cranky when you bring this up. And I dare say the Canadians do too. But this is what you have with a disarmed population. And I'm not even going down the gun road. I'm just simply saying that when you have a population that is unable to defend itself in any capacity, which you are in Australia, for people who don't know, the list of prohibited weapons, even where I'm from, is so bloody long. And there's so many things you can't have. You can't even have handcuffs. You can't have body armor. There's mace. Mace is banned. You can't have basically
A gas mask?
You can't have non-lethal weapons in any capacity. And the thing is, the thing is that a lot of people don't realize that Aussies, when they go into these situations, for example, if you look up the footage of people in Melbourne, just for example, protesting these anti-lockdown protests, and these police are shooting at them these rubber bullets, and they're capsicum spraying them, and they're chucking tear gas into the crowds and what have you. These are people who don't have anything. They can't defend themselves.
It's not an issue of a disarmed population. I think you have to go to the root of that because even in the United States, for the most part, Antifa's not showing up to protests with AR-15s and firing them at cops or anything.
Yeah.
Though we have seen an escalation in this. We've seen Antifa pointing guns at pedestrians and cars and stuff. The people of Australia and Canada are disarmed, but mentally, not physically. So
yes,
a right that is not exercised is a right that is eventually lost. Mm-hmm. What allowed the people of Australia and Canada to enter a position where they have no way to defend themselves? It is not about the fact the government came and took all their guns. It's about the people letting them do it in the first place, showing. We'll put it this way. Imagine the will of the people as a giant, 30-foot concrete wall from sea to shining sea built by Donald Trump. And over the years, as more and more damage is done to it, eventually it's eroding and it's crumpled, and then it just collapses. And they say, if only we had a wall, we used to have one. If only we had one now, that would stop everything. It's like, no, there's no will. There was a will to repair that wall. The people who are standing up and saying, I resist this, that's the level of willpower. And over time in Australia and Canada, the willpower decreased and decreased and decreased, and people became comfortable and they became fat and lazy. And now there's no willpower at all to resist. The reason why the Second Amendment is so important in this country is not because armed Americans are going to go march through the streets and seize City Hall or anything like that. I don't see happening, especially in this day and age. It's that the police can't serve warrants unless they do it properly. Well, police can't just kick your door in unless they get the proper warrant. Because you look at, this is a very important one, Breonna Taylor. In the Breonna Taylor case, Breonna Taylor's boyfriend fired at the cops who busted the door down, and that dude was cleared of any wrongdoing. And so the cops in the U.S. know we got to be real careful in Australia and Canada, you see these videos out of Canada where they kick the door in and they're like, there's 6 people in here. And the old guy's screaming and they're dragging him out. They wouldn't do that here.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
New York, they would.
I suppose this is what I'm getting at, though. And just to qualify my position, I agree with you. Like, I think a lot of Aussies, Canadians too, are definitely beaten down mentally, and they definitely have completely and utterly, they've resigned themselves mentally, for sure. I totally agree with that sentiment. Something I really dislike about my homeland is that sentiment precisely. However, police would bloody think twice before ripping you down onto the ground and trying to handcuff you or shove things into your face or whatever whatever they're doing in these videos that are coming out of Australia. They would think twice if they thought that there was a potential that you were armed in any capacity and that you might actually fight back. Because you can't have a system where the population is basically subservient to the police force. You can't have that. It shouldn't be that way. That's not how this works.